Hello and welcome to the 5%ers Club. I'm your host Nathan Annie Barber. I'm joined as ever by Daniela Genus.
Hi.
Every week we discuss an inspiring book that we're reading that advances us towards our goal of becoming a 5%er. This week Daniela and I are reviewing Blake Mycoskie's Start Something That Matters. Can you hold it up please? Thank you very much. In summary, this is a story of Blake Mycoskie, the founder of Tom's Shoes. For every pair of shoes bought for him, he gives a free pair away to a child that doesn't have shoes. He calls it his one-for-one strategy. So the book's an autobiographical look at entrepreneurship from his point of view, and it's also a call to action to aspiring entrepreneurs to actually start a business that has a social aim. The argument being that it's not only good business in today's day and age, but it's also good for the planet and society as well. It's a funny and cringeworthy book in parts. However, it's a real roller coaster of experiences of actually what it's like to actually set up and grow and run a successful business. So I'll put it over to you now, Daniela. What were your thoughts on the book? That's a positive start.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think that at my stage, and our stage of development, I think it's probably a couple of steps behind, which sounds really quite conceited, but there wasn't anything in it that was new or novel.
No?
And I don't know, I just got the sense, it just seemed a bit self-important.
Okay.
And I think he's done a fantastic thing with his business, and I'm not taking away from that, but he made it sound like it's so easy.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't really like. This is just so easy. If you just make the decision to do it, it will just happen.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like some of the other books we've read, even though they've achieved monumental success, they still are quite clear on it was challenging. And he does talk about some challenges, but it's also almost
just seems
whimsical.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that happened, but
we got over it and then we made $1 million.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. Like, I didn't engage with him as the author, even though it's kind of semi-autobiographical. Well, I can't even say the word. Autobiographical.
Yeah.
Is that the word? I didn't think, oh wow, like what an amazing guy. I just thought, oh well, lucky you that you had been on the TV and this had happened and that had happened.
Yeah.
Lucky you that these people called. Like,
right.
That doesn't happen to the average person.
It just happened. It almost seemed to just fit into place for him.
Yeah.
He launched the business. He got some media coverage. He got onto the cover of Vogue, and then ultimately he got this amazing business. And he's like, "Hey guys, do this."
Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
Well, not in every case. In some cases, obviously, it does work in the way that he does it because it's worked for him.
I guess he made it just seem a bit too easy.
Okay. Well, for those people that haven't read the book, can you just give an overview as to how he got started in the business and actually what the story of Blake Mycoskie is?
So he already was an entrepreneur of sorts. He had several businesses and he'd been on some sort of reality show. I'm still not clear on exactly what that show was. Then he decided to go to Argentina. I think as part of something he was doing with one of his business or the show, he was traveling in Argentina with his sister, and then he started seeing these particular types of shoes, and then started to hear about people, I guess, and see children that had their feet damaged and been ill because of not having any shoes. Then he decided, I know, I'm going to take these shoes to America and sell them, and for every shoe that I sell, we will give a child with no shoes a pair of shoes. And that pretty much was it. Like, he just had the decision, that was it. He got like, how much? 200 shoes made, went back. And this is where I also knew, like, this is just not the average person. Like, it's not the average situation, sorry. He brought some of his friends round. His friends bought the shoes immediately on the spot because they wanted to support it.
So that doesn't happen to you?
No. And that's not to say I don't have supportive friends.
Yeah.
But I just think it was a bit fairy tale like. And I'm not saying that, again, I don't want to sound like I'm being hateful, because I still do think he's done a good job. But I just think for the average Joe, it's not really realistic. So he sold those shoes to his friends told other people, and then within like a month or something, a major retail company called and said they wanted to sell the shoes. Like that, unless you have good networks to be able to speak to retailers or the media on their behalf, I don't think you can come up with a business idea today and in a month. you already like on every major media station.
I mean, from my point of view, I think he actually did have a lot of challenges, and I think he's maybe glossing over it a little bit in the book. I think the purpose of the book really is to explain the fact that it's more about encouraging people to actually set up a social business. I think he talked about his business as almost as like an aside. Yeah, this happened and this is what we did and we created a social business. But really what I want to do is I want to talk to you about why you need to set up a social business and the importance of doing that. And I think almost his story was a little bit of an aside. Maybe that's just the way it came across, because I'm sure, I mean, in anything like this, you must have challenges. And he does talk about significant startup challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs have. So like he talked about the common challenges that we have dealing with fear and uncertainty, which I thought was really good. So, how do you deal with a situation where you started, you launched a product, you've taken it to market, and you've got no idea whether or not it's going to resonate or not with the market, or whether or not, how do you deal with the fact that you don't have an income for a period of time, you've got a family, you've got maybe a job to support, you've got a job at the same time. How do you deal with fear and uncertainty? And I thought he had some quite good ideas around that. So one of the ideas that he had was, to write down your fears, because if you see them written down, it's easier to kind of get over them and kind of understand what the actual fear issue is. You're shaking your head.
No. It might work for people. That would not work for me. That would make it worse, because now I can see in black and white. Oh my gosh, I could be bad.
Okay.
It's not going to make me feel better.
It's not going to make you feel better. How do you deal with fear and uncertainty then? Because it happens. Obviously, you deal with it. We deal with it all the time.
It's just like face your fear and do it anyway, or feel the fear and do it anyway type thing. He says in that same section that if you are, if you know that you're doing what you say you're doing and you believe in it and you're purpose centered, then you cannot think that you're a fraud, and therefore you shouldn't feel scared of people kind of outing you. But I don't agree with that either, for the same kind of reason. Like, just because I know what I'm doing, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to think that people think that I'm a fraud, and I've experienced that myself.
Should you care about that? If you in your heart believe what you're doing is right and the good thing to do, should you care about other people's opinion?
You shouldn't, but that can be frightening. But it is that thing of,
so how do you deal with it? You
just have to ignore it, I guess, and keep on moving.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, it must be hard for a lot of other people to deal with that, though, because it's, especially for first-time entrepreneurs, because you've done it for such a long period of time, from a young age. I guess you've always dealt with that kind of uncertainty.
But it's still scary.
But it is, I'm sure it is. But imagine someone that's never done it, and imagine they're 30 years old, or 35, or 40, or what have you, and they're just starting their business for the first time. How do you deal with this whole unknowing? There's no path.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think you can. I don't think that there's any way to deal with it, because you don't know the future. So whatever tools you use, the point is it could all still go wrong, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it from potentially going wrong.
That's comforting.
Eternal pessimist. But it's true. It could also go right.
Okay.
Like, it can go either way, and there's nothing that you can, other than working hard, that's the only way you can influence it. But even then, people can work very hard and it still goes wrong.
Yeah.
Putting together tools and strategies are helpful, but it's still not going to stop it potentially going wrong. So I still do think that it's good to have that fear.
Okay.
Because that will encourage you to work as hard as possible to try and minimize that happening.
Okay, that's interesting. He also talks about one of the biggest fears being this whole idea of people thinking it's not the right time. Yeah. So people sit on an idea for like a long period of time, and it's like, oh, it's not the right time because the job, family situation, whatever kind of roadblock they put in their way, they keep telling themselves it's not the right time. And he says it will never be the right time, right? But you just have to do it. To what extent do you agree with that? How would you deal with? What advice would you give to someone that says it's not the right time for me to start my business?
I agree with him. It's never the right time. I think there's better times though. Like.
Okay, but what's a better time? What are the right conditions?
Okay, so if you've been to university, you've just finished and you can't find a job, that is a good time because you're not really doing anything anyway. If you have just been made redundant, that's the right time.
That's a good time. Some will say that's the worst time because you need to get income.
But you always need to get income. What situation is there ever going to be when you don't need to get income unless you're rich? You're always going to need to get income. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's a right time. I think there's a better time. If you're in a job and you're getting well paid and you're comfortable and you actually quite enjoy the job, you're just not going to say, I'm not going to get paid next month because I'm going to set my business. I can't see that somebody is going to trade comfortability for uncertainty. And some people do, but I think the proportion of people won't. However, if you have been made redundant and you get a redundancy package, so you know for at least 3 months I can just about scrape by.
Right.
Or if you get fired
Yeah.
and you've got money saved, then that is a better time because you've not really got anything to lose at this point. I think that's a better time.
Okay.
Also, like for myself, for example, I was on maternity leave. That's a good time, I think. It's hard because you've got a baby, but I'm not at work, so I can set up something at home or a home-based business. I think. So I think there's degrees of worse times and better times. I don't think there is ever a perfect time.
True. Okay. He talks about this idea of entrepreneurs that have too much money. Having too much money is actually worse than having no money or little money when starting your business. And he says the reason is because having a little money makes you creative and innovative, and you have to do a lot with a little, right? Whereas, you know, if you get an investment or funding or what have you, then you're like, I want office space and I want computers and I want this person, head of VP of marketing and what have you, and you don't necessarily really need that. To what extent do you agree with that? Talk to me about your experience.
I agree in some sense, but then I disagree in others. I think he obviously had money. And maybe he wasn't rich.
He didn't have money.
He had money.
When he started his business.
Yeah, because he had other businesses.
No, I mean, yeah, but those businesses weren't really doing very well.
I'm not saying this is what I mean. Where I agree. And
how much money is money?
Because how much money is money? Because when I started my business, I had zero, like minus £300.
Okay, that's not zero. That's minus.
Yeah, I was in minus. That's no money.
Okay.
If he started and he was earning from his other businesses £2,000 a month, to the Facebook guy, that's not money. That's nothing.
That's nothing.
But to me, that's something. Like if I had £2,000 a month when I started my business,
it will give you a platform to launch, right?
So I think it's about the degree of how much.
Yeah.
When someone starts a business, if they're given like 100 grand, you go away and start your business. I can see where that would be a problem, and what he's saying would be correct, because then people. I remember I sat on a panel for a business startup program a few years ago, and this girl came and she was asking for, I can't remember how much the money was. When we asked why, she was saying, "No, I need an office in this specific building." I'm trying to find a uptown office building.
Yeah.
Then she's like, and then I need furniture.
Yeah.
And then I need to pay this amount of staff. Meanwhile, I was sat there and I'd only just got my office maybe like 2 months before.
Yeah.
I specifically remember thinking my office at that point was like £180 a month, and she was saying she needed £1,800 a month for the office. I was like,
it's the most ridiculous
what are you
thing.
talking about?
Yeah.
So I get his point from both sides. However, if I had money to bring in a business consultant from day one, for example,
do you need that though? I don't think you would have needed that. I would have. No, because the thing, what he's saying is that lack of money makes you become the business consultant. You have to learn yourself the skills.
But if you don't have them, the time, it slows you down.
Of course it slows you down, but those skills that you develop through hardship are the things that are actually going to keep you in business over the long run, I think.
Maybe not. They may be the things that make you successful 10 years down the line, but I don't think learning on the job. It's a marathon,
it's not a sprint.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think it's a qualification for that business that you're working in to be successful. I think it can be a hindrance, because if you don't have the business acumen, you're going to make stupid mistakes and you're going to make errors. Whereas had you had a business consultancy, actually that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
that would be helpful.
I don't know. I believe that you can be your own business consultant, like through having to learn and having to understand actually what works and what doesn't is the thing that's actually going to keep you in business for the long term.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's not.
Look at all these startups. Look at all these billionaires, huge businesses now. They started in their garage and they started in their home apartments
that's
with
a different
nothing.
Thing. Yeah, but that's
it's not different.
It is, because we're talking
the same
about
thing.
It's not, because you're talking about actual capital, like stuff, whereas I'm talking about knowledge. So yes, you can start in your garage with nothing. However, those people that started in their garage potentially and clearly knew what they were doing. So what I'm saying is, if you're starting
not necessarily. They didn't know everything. They knew a little bit.
Everything, because nobody knows everything.
Exactly. So you start with what you have.
But what I'm saying is, if you had a little bit of money to get some expert advice, if you are so I started business as I make shoes. and I know how to make shoes, but I have zero marketing skills.
Well, then you learn.
You can Nathan, do you know how long it takes to learn?
Well, then you take the time.
Okay, but in taking that time, that's fine. In taking that time, you could go out of business. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you learning isn't a qualification for it being a success, because the time it's going to take you to learn might be longer than the time it takes for your business to benefit from that. And so in the long run, because then I might decide, okay, I'm going to set up a clothing business now and use all that marketing knowledge that I learned in my failed business. So for the person, it is potentially beneficial, but I'm saying it's not necessarily beneficial for the business.
I agree with you to a certain extent. And yes, you're definitely going to grow your business faster if you get a outside consultant that has the skills where you're lacking. However, what happens in 12 or 18 months time if that person decides to leave? And then
I'm not saying just somebody that works in your business, just being able to pay for advice. So for example, I start a company, I'm making some money, I bring in HR, I bring in some staff, I don't understand HR, then I get sued because I didn't understand HR policies. Had I had money to go and engage with an HR consultant to make sure, it is a lesson, but we're talking about, that's what I'm saying, individually it's beneficial, but that doesn't mean that it's going to make the business grow. It could actually bust the business.
Okay. All right. So, going back to, I guess, the main purpose of the book. Hey, Bonnie. Hi. Hey, beautiful. We just had a guest coming into the room. She wants to be involved. I think she wants to voice her opinion. So, the main purpose of the book really is about starting a business that has a social aim, right, and social conscience. Now, there are lots of businesses that are either starting, or big businesses that have a social aim to them, or adding a social aim to them. So you hear of businesses like Prudential, IBM, 3M, McDonald's, Starbucks, Amazon, etc., etc. Now, do you think these companies actually care about social good, or are they just doing it because it's fashionable at the moment?
I think that you can't really define. I think possibly within some of those businesses there are individuals that are really passionate about social and environmental change, and they have therefore created programs and put in policies and procedures to support that. But I also think that there's other people that are just doing it to tick a box, and because that's what everybody else is doing, or because that's what the public want to see us doing.
So why did you start a social business?
Because I was passionate about delivering social change. I, as a young black woman from inner city, I felt that there was a lot of opportunities that I wasn't able to engage with. There was lots of experiences that I wanted but didn't know how or where to go to experience them, and I wanted to provide something that would give other young people like myself those kind of opportunities.
Yeah,
that's why I started.
Sure. So it's something that is like passionate, it's deep down inside of you, that you needed to satisfy that through a business, and whatever shape that would have taken, whether it's a business or whether it's something else, you had to get that out of you some way, shape or form. So what advice would you give to those people? Because basically this is basically a call to arms to say, listen, start a social business. Don't just start any business, start something that matters. What advice would you give to those people that are looking to start a business at the moment, but aren't really driven by a social aim? Do you think it's important for them to actually start with a social aim?
I think that we live in a very selfish world, and therefore to say to people everyone that starts a business should start a social business, I don't think that's practical, because I don't think people want to do that. I think it's much easier to say whatever business it is that you start, consider your impact on the environment and society, and try where possible to implement areas within the business that have social and environmental positive impact. I think we'll make more progress that way.
So talk to me about so why is it popular and fashionable now to actually start a conscious social business? Because
look at the world we're living in. The environment is, well, I'm sure there's people like Donald Trump that think that
congratulations, Donald, by the way.
Whatever. that the global warming is
4 more years.
Shut up. But it's not even funny, that's so annoying. But you can look around and you hear stuff like the tsunamis, and I'm sure these things potentially would happen anyway, but people are starting to pay more attention. Like sustainable energy is a big deal at the moment, because the fuel and stuff that's not renewable, what happens when it finishes, what will happen to the world. In terms of society, there's so many people that are disenfranchised, disengaged, living in poverty, living in war. So I think we're at a tipping point where people are starting to recognise if something doesn't change, we're going to be living in anarchy and the world is going to burn down.
So people are more conscious of these things going on in our world now?
Yeah. I think also there's more, the media, there's more statistics that are out there, whereas maybe 100 years ago, people might have been able to look and say, well, there's loads of factories and there's loads of smoke, but what does that mean? Now we know what that means to society. And if you're somebody that has children, has grandchildren, and you're thinking about your future legacy.
Great. And that makes a lot of sense. So you look at the world in which we're in, you see that consumers are actually interested in the environment and social good, and you start a business because you want to kind of tap into that. That to me is the wrong way to think about it. I mean, I'd like to hear your opinion on it. From my point of view, you should start a social business because it's actually something that you deeply care about and you're passionate about, and it's something that is in you, like you said, from day dot. No one had to tell you, look, you start a social business because it's actually good for business. You actually did it because you actually want to make a change in the world, right? Whereas the other people that may look at this and go, I'm going to start a social business because it's going to make me a millionaire, it's going to make me rich and successful and what have you, and that's not the way to look at it, in my opinion.
Oh no, I don't think it's the way.
But it almost seems as though that's what he's almost saying. He's almost like, start a social business because it gives you this benefit and that benefit and this benefit and that benefit, and it's like, well, how about the benefit of just like your own satisfaction?
Yeah, but that's the problem. People are selfish. That's not enough. So
it's not enough.
It's not enough for most people. If it was, all businesses would have social elements or departments, but they don't. Why is that? Because people are not bothered. What they're bothered about.
What are people bothered about?
Profit. What is the bottom line? How much money can I make? I know so. That's what capitalism and consumerism is based on. That's what it's rooted in, and we're living in a capitalist society.
But we've seen big businesses, Apple, Starbucks, Prudential, IBM, that have these social elements to them. Yes, they have to make a profit, as he says, you have to make a profit, but that's not the purpose. That's not the reason why they're there.
No, they're there to make money.
Let me ask you, they're not there to make money necessarily. Okay, let me ask you.
Go to a shareholder meeting. Trust me.
Okay, so that's an interesting point then. So what is the purpose of business then? What would you say is the purpose of business?
Well, that depends who you're asking. If you're asking a social
I'm asking the owner. No. I'm going to ask an owner of. I'm asking Steve Jobs, who's dead right now, so I can't really ask him. But hypothetically, if he was alive, what is the purpose of his business? Would he say the purpose of his business? Let me give you some options. Would he say the purpose of his business was to make money? Was to satisfy shareholders? Was to employ people? Or is it for some kind of social good?
I don't think it would be any of those.
Okay, what would you say? What would you say?
Imparting like a digital, I don't know the terminology, but I think that's what he would say. But
like, why?
Because that's what he was passionate about.
But why impart a digital? Why start a digital whatever it is you're talking about? Why do that? Is it to make money? Is it to satisfy shareholders? Is it for the employee?
But like, why? Guess what? If it wasn't to satisfy shareholders, that would explain why he got fired from his own company, because he didn't satisfy shareholders, who are about profit. So the individual, it's not necessarily the individual person or the person that started the business, it's also about who are the shareholders, who owns and is responsible for the business. For them, it's about profit.
Yeah, okay, we're talking about larger businesses here, but if we're talking about smaller owner managed businesses, like you and I at the moment, there's
a lot of reasons they start business because they don't want to have an employer, because they want the flexibility or what they think is the flexibility of running their own business, because they want to make money, because I like making shoes, so I don't want to work for someone, so I'm going to make my own shoes. Or in my workplace where I make shoes, they don't want to listen to my ideas, so I'm going to make my own shoes.
But don't you think there should be a bigger purpose to business over and above just
They should. I think
money?
that it should be about, or there should, in every business, there should be somewhere something implemented to enact social or environmental change.
But who enacts that? Who starts that? It has to be the owner or the founder.
Yeah, but if the owner or the founder doesn't care, then why would it? That's my point.
But what I'm saying is that he's saying that you should care because you get so many benefits from it, and I'm saying that's not the way to look at it.
But it is. It has to be, because if somebody is only bothered about making money, the only time they're going to listen is if you say, well, if you add a social element to your business, you're going to make money. That's when they're going to listen. Not, it's going to make you feel good doing good. I don't care. I already feel good when I go to sleep in my 10,000 square foot house.
Yeah, I don't know. I think after a while,
I think you're giving too much credit to people. What do you mean after a while?
I think after a while it becomes like standard. Like your 10,000 square foot bedroom, your silk pillows after a while it becomes like, okay, this is standard now.
Yeah, so then they'll start a different business.
No, I'm not.
Start doing
I think they start looking for purpose and meaning in their life. As he says, I can't remember where it was.
Some people do it. Other people would have loads of affairs, throw money in people's faces, start jumping out planes.
But what we're saying is that society and
inside.
culture is slightly changing because we're more conscious and aware of the shit that's happening. The stuff that's happening in our environment. I don't think that's. I
think it is. I don't think the whole society has changed. I think pockets of society are changing. I don't think it's also. Well, look,
of course they
just elected president of America. Like
4 more years.
You just need to stop that.
Congratulations.
Like Donald Trump is rich, so how much is society changing? I don't know.
That's a very good point. I mean, that moves us away from the conversation slightly, but clearly that's a very divided country because a lot of people voted the other way and a lot of people voted for Donald. At the end of the day, we can see that people who are progressive and are forward thinking and want to see change in the world typically voted for Hillary, but there are a large portion of the population that aren't as forward thinking as that voted the other way.
And these are a lot of them. They said, I saw some of the interviews on the news, these are poor working class people who are saying we're fed up of the system screwing us over while we here poor, we need change. But then you go and elect a rich man. How much has this rich man helped you? Because you're complaining about the politicians, but this is a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much has he helped you?
Well, he's provided jobs.
Well, but we've had that
to the Mexicans, and which he doesn't like. He wants to build a wall. He's going to ask Mexico to pay for it. Is he still going ahead with that plan?
I don't know, but he took the thing about Muslims off the website.
Did he? He's backtracking. You need to backtrack. Anyway, listen, anyone can do it. I'm inspired by it, to be honest. Anyone can do it.
Anyone is not a billionaire.
Anyone can do anything in this world. If Donald Trump can become president, you could do it.
No.
What do you mean?
No, Donald Trump.
Like, this world has untapped possibilities.
He's not just a random man. He's a billionaire.
He's a random man.
He's not a random man. He's a billionaire. If he was just Joe Bloggs, that wouldn't have happened. Number one. If he had been black, saying all the stuff that he'd been saying, or any other minority.
Who knows?
I know. That would not happen.
How do we know?
Because look at all the people that voted him and the stuff that they're saying. Who
was the black Republican guy that was talking a lot of crap? Who was his running mate for a long while? Black guy.
Did he win?
No, but he got very far.
But did
he got
win?
much further.
But did he win?
He got much further.
But did he
win? He
win?
wasn't a billionaire and he wasn't a game show contestant for the last 50 years on television.
That's what I'm saying. You don't need to be inspired by that. Like, that is not that inspiring.
Yeah.
No, that just demonstrates money is power. And if you tap into the disenfranchised, and there's a lot of them clearly, and speak the language that they want to hear, then they'll elevate you.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the way that I would want to become the president. Because if he genuinely, which I believe that he probably does, if he doesn't believe in what he's been saying, then what have you just created? Like, you've just empowered a whole load of racist, sexist monsters, really.
Okay, critiques.
I found the book felt quite, well, not even the book, the writer, Blake. I felt like the tone was quite self-important. And he just made it sound like it was a bit too easy. Yeah,
do this and then do that. And
it just seemed a bit too easy. I loved this idea around managing your online story, sharing stories because they resonate more than fact. I loved all the examples that he gave of other social businesses. It wasn't poorly written, like it was easy to read, but it just was a bit cringy in parts. And I can't even remember any specific part, but it just felt unnatural.
Unnatural?
Yeah, like it didn't feel like, I feel like if you went and had a conversation with him, he would probably tell the story different to how he's written it. It didn't feel authentic. That's the word. He didn't feel authentic.
That's interesting.
But
would you like to meet him?
I don't have a particular desire.
No, as in like,
I don't want to not meet him, but it's not like he's on my top 10 list.
Yeah, but Oprah. I mean, like
I want to meet Oprah.
But like, would you want to have a conversation with him is what I mean, and like sit down and pick his brain?
Oh yeah, like I would want to say, do you think